Well, things are getting very interesting right now because car dealerships are starting to panic. People are not coming into the dealerships and wanting to buy a car, at least not anymore. Many people bought a car last month or have purchased a car over the past couple of years when prices were actually a little bit lower. Now they're starting to go up, and the US consumer is not wanting to buy a more expensive car. And on top of that, pay more in interest because interest rates are not coming down like many people said they would. Now, we're going to address what's going on here, what just happened over the last month, and how more dealerships are pushing for the 7-year auto loan. Yeah, I'm going to explain what's going on because this right now is frightening. So, we'll get to this in just a moment, but first, all I ask is one thing. Takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy the daily updates, and now let's begin. Okay, so let's look at the news from today. Look at this right here. It says, why Americans buying 400,000 more cars in April might end up being a bad thing. Here's what we know. 400,000 people decided it was a good time to buy a car back in April. Okay? Well, what does this mean? I understand we're still in April technically, but again, it's the end of the month. Now, what you need to understand is if people decide to buy a car in April, that means they're probably not going to buy a car in May. They're not going to buy a car in June. There's a good chance they don't buy another car until 2027, 2028, or 2029. Not even in 2026. This is concerning because now dealerships are wondering, okay, we had a great month because everybody was concerned about tariffs on autos, and so they went out and bought new cars or decided to buy just a used car. Here's the thing. Prices aren't going to keep going up. They're actually going to go down. We are going to see prices on cars go down. Not the reason you're thinking. Not because prices are just becoming better, that they're using better products and the servicing is great and the labor is a little bit less expensive. That's not the reason why. The reason why cars are going to become less expensive is because dealerships are going to be sitting on them. Dealerships are going to be struggling. Look at this right here. It says, why used car prices are rising in 2025. What every buyer needs to know. The reason why used car prices are going up is because the new car prices are having to go down. Guess what? If new car prices stay the same, guess what everyone's looking at? The used cars down here. They're going to pay less money to get a used car because guess what? There's no tariffs. Not only that, they don't have to worry about a salesman trying to get them into an additional warranty or other things like that. They don't want to spend money that they don't have to. But here's the thing you need to keep in mind. We are now learning that more and more Americans are trying to find ways to ease the pain of having to buy a new car. So what do? Well, they go and get a longer loan. Look at this right here. It says the 7-year car loan is here. Do you really want to be paying off your car in 2032? Here's the thing. Most cars start to have issues right about that 4 to 5 year mark. Okay. Now, some cars, they'll run for 10, 15, 20 years, and they'll do just fine. You'll have minimal maintenance. But that's not really the new cars. New cars have so many different sensors, and there's different gadgets, and there's different features, that there's so many issues. So there's not a 100% reliable car. As a result, this 7-year loan is going to turn into a problem because you are going to be sitting on a car for 7 years when it's going to start having issues probably in year 4 and 5. I want to read a little bit of this article to you. Look at this right here. It says more new car shoppers are taking on 7-year loans, a trend that underscores the rising cost of financing a vehicle. It says 7-year loans made up 19.8% of all new vehicle financing by dealers in the first quarter of 2025. Goes on to say, the average new car customer borrowed $41,473 in the first 3 months of 2025 at an annual interest rate of 7.1% for an average monthly payment of $741. Those financing terms add $9,231 in interest to the cost of the average car. Yeah, it's becoming insane. But what's crazy about this is you are going to pay, okay, and this is for a car. You're going to be paying for a car for almost a quarter of what you would if you decide to buy a home. Most people that buy a home, they buy a home and they pay it off for 30 years. A 30-year fixed rate mortgage, that's it. Now people are starting to buy cars with 7 years of payments. Okay? What is that? 84 months of payments. That's a massive amount of payments. This is starting to turn into a bigger issue. Keep in mind, when we had issues with housing during the pandemic, what do? We said, okay, your 30-year fixed rate, that is just too much. You can't afford it. Well, let's just tack on some more years. Let's just make it easier. If you're struggling, let's just add on 10 additional years. Bring your mortgage payment down. So you're going to have a 40-year mortgage payment. Yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing in this case. People can't afford cars, so let's not lower the price of the vehicle. No, let's not do that. Let's just extend the loan longer. It's still the same debt that you have, right? You're still making payments. You're making lower payments, which means you're paying off the principal. It takes longer. Again, you're going to be in debt for 84 months just from this one purchase. This is why car dealerships are beginning to panic, is they realize that the American people, they're not going out and buying new cars right now because they don't know what's going to happen with tariffs. And it's turning into a big crisis. I want to show you something. Look at this right here. It says, the biggest industry threat to the industry, the car industry, has less been specific tariffs and more the uncertainty around them. It says, this uncertainty has driven sales higher in March and April, which isn't necessarily good news. My efforts to keep every morning dump from being denominated by tariff news have been mixed at best, though I've tried to keep some stories in reserve as I wait until something concrete happened. One of the things I've noticed is when I talk about tariffs here on the channel, a lot of people don't want to hear it because they know it's there. They're experiencing the pain, and I get it. Nobody wants to keep being reminded of the troubles that we're going through right now. Look at this. It says, 2 things have happened worth talking about. The first is that automakers, like many other companies, have withdrawn their guidance for profits and sales in 2025, as no one is sure what is going to happen. How can we project our future earnings or our sales when we don't know what's going to happen? This is what companies are doing. They are withdrawing their guidance. They don't know what's going to happen in the future. They don't know what the Trump administration is going to do. Part of the reason why car dealerships are scared and they're panicking. Goes on to say, the second is the Wall Street Journal report that the Trump administration, having touched the stove, is pulling its hands rapidly back with a somewhat complex way to give automakers time to transition manufacturing here in the United States. Okay. What we know is that Trump administration, I've talked about this before, the Trump administration or Donald Trump in particular will go and say, hey, I'm going to propose this, and we're going to charge a 50% tax, or in this case, a 25% tariff on automotive. Okay. Or on aluminum and steel and things like that. And that, again, that's where he starts. But when we're at zero, guess what? This is the negotiation phase. This is where we're at. So 25% is the max. Well, let's negotiate it. That's essentially what automakers are trying to do. Or what President Trump wants is get your manufacturers here in the United States. Create more jobs. It'll create more stability, a better economy, right? We'll also have more control over the pricing. That's a big factor as well. We don't have to worry about what other countries are doing. There are regulations. We don't have to worry about that. So right now, again, keep this in mind. We're looking at just the automotive industry. Okay, used car dealerships are feeling the pain, but it's not because of the tariff price necessarily, because prices are actually going up for used cars. It's actually the fact that to finance the cars is becoming more expensive. Even insuring a car is becoming more expensive. I was looking at a new car, or not necessarily new. I always try to buy something that's 2 to 3 years old, just because it'll lose value, right? I don't want to buy a depreciating asset that's going to lose 20% as I drive away, right? It doesn't make sense. But I was looking at a car. It's a 2023, and I was looking at this car, and I was thinking, okay, that's what payments would be. I could pay for it if I wanted to, but just the opportunity cost that I'd be losing if I invested into a depreciating asset. But then I was like, how much is insurance? The insurance on the car for me, would be right about I think it was like right about $6,000 a year. So yeah, that's fairly substantial. So didn't buy it. But again, you got to think about all these things. And so just understand right now, car dealerships are panicking because people bought the cars that they needed or wanted this month and last month. That's crazy, because what are we going to see in the month of May and June? Well, that we don't know, but we're going to find out. Now, I do want to ask you one thing. If you have any stories regarding car dealerships pretty much just berating you, trying to get you to buy something, calling you, texting you, emailing you, coming to your house. I've heard stories about car salesmen coming to a person's house with a car they think they might like, knocking on the door, pretty much just cold selling them on, hey, come look at this car. That's absolutely insane. But let me know if you have any stories like that, because for one, I'd love to hear them, but also share them so that other people don't experience these as well. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but that is what we know as of today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.